These are millions of Americans who did everything right, went to school, worked hard, saved money, and still cannot figure out why they are not wealthy. This video is about why that happened and who built the system that made it happen. Start with one number, 49%. That is the share of basic financial literacy questions that American adults answered correctly in 2025. And here is what makes that number genuinely alarming. It is identical to the score recorded in 2017. 8 years. The largest economy on Earth. No movement. And that is not an accident. The financial education most Americans received was never designed to produce wealthy people. It was designed to produce reliable employees, and there is a meaningful gap between those two outcomes, a gap this video is going to walk through directly. Back in the early 19th century, a man named Horace Mann reshaped the American public school model from the ground up. His framing was idealistic. Education, he said, was the great equalizer of the conditions of men. The intentions were genuine enough, but the architecture he built had a very specific function. Preparing workers for an industrial economy built on punctuality, group instruction, and following direction. The factory floor needed people who showed up on time and did what they were told, and the school system delivered exactly that. That same system is largely still running today, feeding students into a 21st century economy using a 19th century blueprint, and nowhere does that failure cut deeper than in personal finance. 87% of Americans say high school left them unprepared for handling money in the real world, and nearly 8 in 10 adults agree they would have had a better financial start if their schools had taught them more about it. 72% say they would have made fewer money mistakes. 73% believe they would be further ahead financially right now. What those numbers describe, collectively, is a generation of people who understood, only in hindsight, that their education had left out something essential. The oldest one starts before school even enters the picture. Most people heard it at home or in church or from a well-meaning relative at some point in their childhood. Money is the root of all evil. The actual biblical verse, 1 Timothy 6 verse 10, reads, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." 3 words carry the entire distortion. It is the love of money, not money itself. It is a root, not the root. And it describes kinds of evils, not all evil universally. That misquote has circulated for generations, and what it quietly accomplished was attaching guilt and shame to the act of building wealth, making financial ambition feel morally suspect for people who never stopped to check the original source. For a lot of Americans, that guilt never fully goes away, and it shapes financial decisions in ways they may not even recognize. Built on top of that foundation is the second lie, and financial educators consistently describe this one as the most damaging myth in modern society: that hard work equals wealth. Here is the data behind why that belief does not hold up. In 1973, the average non-supervisory worker in America earned the equivalent of $29.15 per hour in today's dollars. As of 2024, that average wage sat at $30.13, less than $1 of real growth across more than 50 years. Over that same period, worker productivity rose by 150%, and if wages had simply kept pace with that productivity since 1973, the average hourly wage today would be $72.88. Instead, it is $30.13. Workers became dramatically more productive. The economy expanded, and the overwhelming majority of that growth flowed somewhere other than worker paychecks, which brings the CEO pay comparison into sharp focus. In 1965, chief executives at the 350 largest public American firms earned about 20 times what their typical workers made. Today, that ratio sits at just under 300 to 1, and according to the Economic Policy Institute, that higher CEO pay does not reflect any measurable increase in their contribution to corporate output. None of this is a moral argument. It is arithmetic, and the arithmetic does not support the idea that individual effort alone determines financial outcome. The third lie is a quieter one: that saving money builds wealth. Saving matters, and no serious financial educator disputes that, but saving alone has never been a path to wealth because inflation steadily eats the value of cash sitting in a low-yield savings account. The people who actually accumulate wealth have always understood this, which is why they keep the bulk of their assets in things that grow: stocks, real estate, businesses. And there is a tax structure that reinforces this reality. The top tax rate on long-term capital gains, the kind of income wealthy people derive from investments, sits at 20%. The top marginal rate on ordinary income, the kind that most workers earn from their jobs, is 37%. The code itself is structured differently depending on how your money makes money. The fourth lie follows directly from the third, that investing is essentially gambling, and that it is only accessible to people who are already wealthy. This belief thrives in classrooms where the stock market gets discussed almost exclusively in terms of risk and volatility, leaving students with the impression that putting money in the market is no different from a roulette wheel. Long-term investing based on research and time, though, is a fundamentally different activity from short-term speculation, and the stock market has grown at an average rate of around 10% per year historically. Modern platforms now allow people to buy fractional shares of stocks and ETFs with just a few dollars, meaning the barrier to entry has effectively collapsed. The obstacle for most Americans is not money, it is the knowledge they were never given. Only 32 states currently have legislation requiring personal finance education in schools. As of 2025, just 45% of high schoolers had taken any kind of personal finance or financial literacy class, and only 23% of children frequently discuss money with their parents. More than 2 in 5 Americans report learning about personal finance entirely on their own, and 1 in 3 say their lack of financial knowledge actively holds back their financial progress right now. No single issue captures the distance between what Americans were promised and what they actually received more clearly than student loan debt, and the numbers here have grown to a scale that is hard to absorb. Student loan debt in the United States stood at $1.841 trillion as of the fourth quarter of 2025, with the average federal borrower carrying a record balance of $39,633. Paying that off takes time that most borrowers did not anticipate. Repayment stretches close to 20 years on average, and only 40% of borrowers clear their debt within 10 years. 51% of people who took out student loans now regret borrowing the money, 43% regret going to college altogether, and nearly 1 in 3 Americans admit they did not understand the consequences of those loans before they signed the paperwork. The outcomes waiting on the other side of that debt did not always match the expectation either. Only 40% of college graduates landed a salary job within their first year after graduating, and 44% ended up taking a job outside their field of study entirely. The research does support college as a worthwhile investment on average. Degree holders still out-earn non-completers by roughly $8,000 per year even after accounting for loan payments, and post-secondary education does deliver positive returns in most cases, but on average carries a lot of weight in that sentence, because the variation beneath it is enormous. Engineering majors achieve a 325% 5-year return on investment. Master's degree holders in certain fields spend as much as 57% of their increased earnings on loan payments. The question was never simply whether to go to college. The question was always which path, at what price, with what realistic outcome attached, and almost nobody was taught to ask it that way. As of the first quarter of 2024, the top 1% of American households held 30.5% of the country's total wealth, while the bottom 50% held 2.5% of it, according to Federal Reserve data. By the fourth quarter of 2024, the top 10% of households averaged a net worth of $8.1 million, and the bottom 50% averaged $60,000. The gap is not holding steady, it is widening. Back in 1982, entering the Forbes 400 list required a net worth of $240 million in today's dollars. By 2024, the entry point had climbed to $3.3 billion, and the average member of that list held over $13 billion, nearly 18 times the 1982 average after adjusting for inflation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, billionaire wealth in the United States jumped 70% in a single year. 2020 marked the steepest single-year increase in billionaires' share of wealth on record. An Oxfam International report found that billionaire wealth in 2025 grew 3 times faster than the average annual rate recorded over the previous 5 years. As of early 2026, the wealth gap in America has reached its widest point in more than 3 decades. What makes this directly relevant to the earlier lies is the mechanism behind it. Americans outside the top income brackets get the vast majority of their income from wages and salaries, earned income, taxed at the higher rate. But the higher up the income scale you go, the larger the share of income that comes from investment profits, taxed at the lower rate. The wealth gap and the tax structure reinforce each other, and neither one gets discussed in most high school classrooms. Financial illiteracy carries a price tag, and it is a specific one. The National Financial Educators Council calculated that the lack of financial knowledge cost Americans more than $246 billion in 2025 alone, averaging out to $948 per person in a single year. Money lost to bad decisions, missed opportunities, avoidable fees, and interest paid on debt that better-informed choices would have prevented. People with very low financial literacy are 7 times more likely to spend 20 or more hours per week dealing with personal finance problems, meaning ignorance costs not just money but time in enormous amounts. Nearly 1 in 3 American adults says money stress is a frequent part of their life. Among younger Americans, the numbers are the most sobering. Gen Z averaged just 38% correct on financial literacy assessments in 2025, the lowest score of any age group, and roughly 37% answered 7 or fewer questions correctly out of 28 total. An entire generation is entering one of the most complicated financial environments in modern history, carrying less financial preparation than any generation that came before them. Here is what the evidence shows taken together. The school system was built to produce workers, and it succeeded at that goal. Financial literacy has flatlined for nearly a decade with no improvement. The productivity gains workers created over 50 years did not translate into proportional wages. Student debt crossed $1.8 trillion. Wealth inequality hit a 30-year high. None of that happened by coincidence. It happened within a system that was never structured to distribute financial knowledge broadly, because a financially literate workforce and a compliant industrial workforce are not the same thing. None of this means effort is pointless, or that education has no value, or that the system cannot be navigated. Millions of people do navigate it, and they do so by learning, often on their own, often late, the things that school never covered. Anna Mahoney, CEO of Addition Wealth, put it plainly to the World Economic Forum: financial education is not a nice to have, it is a need to have. And perhaps the cleanest reframe of everything covered here comes from a January 2026 financial commentary. Wealth is not how much you earn. It is how long your money can survive without you working. Almost nobody heard that definition in school. And the distance between what most people were taught and what that sentence describes, that gap is exactly where the biggest financial lie lives.